It's episode 6. Finally. I would have posted it earlier, but I had some audio issues with the recording, as it was my first time recording more than 2 mics, but I believe I got it to a good enough state where I can post it. So this is a special Portland episode with Keith Lancaster and a very good dude, George Woods, who was kind enough to drive all the way down to Portland, or up to Portland from the Bay Area, just to be on this podcast. I recorded this while I was on vacation with my wife, and man, it was such an awesome trip. Saw the Oregon coast. We rode horses on Cannon Beach, visited Astoria, which was the location of the Goonies. That was a bucket list item for me. That was awesome. We saw Seattle later on the vacation, and it was all just a much needed vacation. But I'm back now and back to uploading some goddamn podcasts. So here we go. Let's get to it. We all know Keith from episode 3, so he needs no introduction. If you're interested, go check out episode 3. It's a whole hour and a half, 2-hour podcast with him, talk about anime and stuff. But this one features also George Woods. He is a songwriter, musician, guitarist, and gamer like myself, like Keith, and like many of you if you listen to the podcast. His band Ghost Parade was like super freaking awesome, but sadly they're no longer. But still, their music is still out there, and you guys should check out their songs. It's pretty freaking amazing. You guys should check it out. He's also a big Nintendo nerd, so it was a lot of fun to talk to him about anime, movies, and Portland, like video games, Zelda, like all that cool stuff. So yeah, let's get to it, shall we? Here's Keith Lancaster and George Woods. It's a test. This is all a test. This is the first time that I've done 3 mics.
This is good. There's
all the trifecta.
All the space to talk.
Yeah,
casual.
dude.
It's
Might as well put used to it. I'm just gonna be laying down this whole podcast.
Here we go. Just try the whole podcast. Just try to invade each other's space. And
I guess it all started with problems with my dad.
Oh, well, I gotta say, Portland is very awesome.
I'm glad
It's
you
like a
it.
very old town, but you see nothing but young people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep.
Definitely. It's interesting though because there wasn't really a 90s housing boom like there was, or even a 60s housing boom like there was in a lot of cities. And so you probably noticed as we drove around, almost all of the houses came from the early 20s to like the mid 40s.
Yeah,
and then that was kind of it. Like the city was built, and then they were done.
We're done. That's it. No more building.
Yeah. So.
Well, there's some construction going on in the downtown area, or like the area that we were at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's like the product of a house lot being cleared, and then they just put a 4-story condo building in it, trying to up the capacity for people because tons of people are moving here.
Yeah. Massive influx of California transplants.
Yeah. Those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was you brought it to my attention that not a lot of Portlanders. What is it, Portlandiers or Portlanders?
I think it's just
Isn't it-
Portlanders.
Okay. Portlanders don't like the California people.
No. There is so like I've seen a couple of these, but not as many as people were saying that there were before. They have like these anti-California stickers some people were making, and it's like the outline, like a silhouette of the shape of California with like the no like circled and slashed in red. And then they were like
It's as bad as
slapping them.
smoking up here.
Yeah, they were like they were putting them on sold real estate house signs. So like it'd be like house sold, and then with like a no California on it, or like some people, like the extreme ones, were going around putting go home bumper stickers on California license plate cars.
I wonder if they're gonna do that.
Yeah.
Start doing that in Nashville.
Man.
Probably. But I mean, is there one demographic that's moving there a ton?
it's kind of all over the map right now, but I think for the most part, it's mostly people from LA and New York.
Huh.
I know two friends, or one friend who just moved, Soren.
Mm-hmm.
He just moved from New York, and then I believe Lou wants to move here too. But
Yeah, I mean, when I was in LA, a lot of people were always jealous, and like they wanted to talk about my time in Nashville a ton, and they're like, "Oh, I really want to go to Nashville," or "Oh, I went there 2 years ago and I can't stop thinking about it." And like I can think of a few people that are like kind of waiting to pull the trigger, like, "Oh, if this doesn't work out, I'm going to move to Nashville." Kind of, it's a thing.
And then they'll become the massive Portland expats who try to go into Nashville, and then Nashville people start putting stickers up with like slash through it.
yeah,
No
but
Portlanders.
it'll be like the whole United States.
Yeah, go home, everybody.
We don't want anybody from the United States here. Wait a minute.
Free Nashville.
I'm on vacation, so
Shane is on vacation. All right, so I'm the new host. Welcome.
Oh, welcome. Hey.
Welcome to.
got-
You know what? That might go well with my Thai tea. I'll take one. Do you have a bottle opener?
I'm up for it.
Are they twist off?
They're twist off because they're Bud Light.
Am I up there?
Oh.
Nice.
White trash. Yeah, out here we don't really do twist off caps.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's not authentic.
It's not authentic. Yeah.
A lot of what's the word that I'm looking for? A lot of hipster beer out here.
Portland is a beer city. If nothing else.
So I've noticed.
Yeah. Beer city, strip club city.
Yeah, you said it's strip club city. Like, how many strip clubs are here in Portland?
I don't know the numbers, but what has been told to me by more than one person is that Portland has more breweries per capita than any place in the U.S., which might have been taken over like Denver or something by now, but also more strip clubs per capita than anywhere in the U.S.
That is a very odd demographic.
But the cool thing is so people don't like that so many people are moving here. It's like thousands of people on the regular just showing up. And the more people that show up, the fewer strip clubs per capita.
So
Interesting.
they're ruining the
If you-
ratio.
if you
that's
yeah.
that's why there's a problem.
What are you guys doing? You're ruining my deja vu strip
There's
club
only so
time.
many strippers.
Suddenly you have to get in one of those Pine State Biscuit style lines just to go to the strip club because it's like you have to check out this strip club.
Yeah. We go here every time we visit.
There actually is a place out here. I think it's there's one that's themed from like kind of like the bar from Dusk Till Dawn. If you ever saw that.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it's like a vegan place. So like even the strippers wear like vegan friendly outfits and shit.
Makes sense.
As long as the animals weren't harmed in the making of those thongs,
Exactly.
everybody is good.
Yeah. And and there's one place that someone told me is one of the best steaks you can get in Portland. Is at a strip club.
One
out
of the
here.
best steaks, right?
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it BYOB?
It's
Is it because Nashville's BYOB? They don't sell, like they don't have like liquor.
To strip clubs?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like
Isn't it
you
BYOB?
carry a
I'm-
flask into the strip club?
Huh?
You like take liquor?
Yeah, you have to take your own beer, or I think it's just beer. I don't think you can bring liquor.
You show
in
up with a water cooler like full of
a
Jack
beach towel.
Daniels and yeah.
I may be wrong. But I remember
Set up a
hearing
couple of
that
chairs.
like there's a law that got put into place that strip clubs can't have like bars in them, or they don't sell liquor there, or something to that. Maybe I'm getting that confused with
I think that's a
the
California thing.
3 foot law. The two.
What's the 3 foot wall?
Well, the strippers have to be like 3 feet away from the tenants. Or
Oh,
the,
wow.
The patrons.
I think it's more like the tenants have to be 3 feet away from the strippers.
Right. Okay. Right. So, yeah.
I don't think it's the strippers you have to worry about.
What else did I see in Portland that I was like, wow, this is really cool. A lot of the bars are really cool. Like that bar we went to last night was really divey, and it kind of reminded me of a scene from Hook.
Oh yeah, we went to Roadside Attraction.
Yeah, Roadside Attraction. That was
That
pretty
place
cool.
is a kitschy little fun spot.
Roadside attraction. When was that?
That was
The
last
last
night.
place that we went.
Mhm.
That was last
Before-
night.
before
the
going
Nest
home?
was the ping pong spot.
Oh, that's right. With that cool like outdoor
Mhm.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. There's a lot of that kind of stuff out here, but those two are especially fun.
And then weed is legal here recreationally, which is
Which
awesome.
none of us smoke, but
Which none of us smoke weed. I want to take advantage of it, but I don't even smoke weed, and so it's not like a priority for me.
It's comforting to know that it's there.
Yeah.
If life should direct you in that way.
the shit should hit the fan.
But if I did live here and like let's say I got injured or like got hurt, like hurt my leg or something, and I have to take like pain medication, like I would love to just give it, like go to an actual dispensary and not use the pain medication.
Which is so weird, because did you hear about how they added CBD oil? I think it's a CBD oil to the Schedule 1
that's
drug
so
list?
Stupid.
Which is like, that's not even the stuff that gets you high.
Right.
That's like the stuff that people will take.
That's just like
to
that
help
cannabis
with their like
oil stuff?
Parkinson's,
And
you know, and arthritis and stuff.
yeah.
And so like
Fighters
now
use
it's
it.
like right up there with heroin.
Yeah, fighters use it for inflammation and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So weird.
That makes no sense.
It makes zero sense.
Do you need to introduce us or anything?
I'm going to introduce. I introduce everybody in the beginning of the show, so this is just us going into the conversation.
This is just us talking.
This is just us talking.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, thanks for having both of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Thank
This
you
is
guys.
the first time that I've set up 3 mics, so hopefully everything goes according to plan.
Blazing new trails.
Blazing new trails.
Shane came all the way from Nashville. I drove up from San Francisco, and
San Francisco.
Keith somehow made it all the way out here from his bedroom.
Actually, I woke up in this room because Shane's sleeping in my bedroom.
Yes,
He didn't even cross
I'm
it.
sleeping
Yeah.
in your-
I'm actually
Keith struggled to sit up this morning.
I'm sitting in the exact spot that I slept last night.
playing Overwatch until all hours of the night.
Playing
What time did you go to
Oh,
sleep
yeah.
last night?
3, I think.
No, 3 was the night before. Last night was
Oh,
like
yeah.
a 1:30 night. It was
Yeah.
early. I could have kept going, but I didn't want to have happen what happened the night before. And it's only Overwatch because George won't let me play Zelda anymore.
Now, why
Well.
won't he let you play Zelda anymore, Keith?
Well.
Explain why.
Go ahead, Keith.
Because
Let's get this on record.
so I've been looking forward a long time to playing Breath of the Wild, and George is an avid Nintendo fan, and one of the only people I know who has a Switch. And
Booyah.
he, as I expected, he brought it up here, and he let me take a spin. Well, he showed it to me first. We
That's-
plugged it in. We got it
that's one
hooked
way
up
to
on the
put it. Yeah.
projector. Looks all nice, big, like 90 inches. And then he kind of like runs around the world so I can see how pretty it is. And he goes into some dungeons, and then like he's like, "Oh, let me go like find my horse. I need to like show you something." And so he like teleports somewhere, and he's at the top of a tower, and he like glides down using the glider, and like runs around for a bit, and then he's like, "Oh, I found it." And then he whistles, the horse comes running, gets on the horse, and then you can actually really like cover some ground. So he like shows me how to fight and everything, and then hands me the controller, like, give it a shot. Like, you want to take on this guy? And so it's really fun. It's a lot harder, just having great weapons and good armor doesn't get you very far in that game if you've never played before. So there's like a learning curve, but there was an incident.
An incident.
There's,
Yep.
That's a good way
so
to put it.
you're supposed to explore and try things out in this game. It's all about kind of like immersing yourself in a world, and so George was like, "Hey, how about you go to those statues over there and check them out?" And so I see him off in the distance. I'm like, "Oh, cool, this is neat." And took my horse over and hopped off, and there were like little apples on the statues. I'm like, "Cool, so you can like get the apples and you can eat them later for health and stuff, cook them." And I was like, I wonder if I can crumble the statues. Maybe I can break them, because that's where I take things. Every time I see something nice, I just want to destroy it.
That's only natural.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I took his sword out and I swung it at the statue, but he has like kind of a big swing arc, and the sword clipped his horse. And then the horse just falls over, and George is like stunned.
I was in shock.
He no, like literally his hands were like gripping his hair, and he was staring at the screen like he didn't know what just happened. And he couldn't say anything. He was trying to, but he was just
I was speechless. I was in shock. I had no idea.
And so we're just looking at his dead horse on the ground. And then all of a sudden it just disappears. and then I later found out that he had named it.
What did you name it, George?
Weff.
Just
with,
so we can remember it fondly.
Lowercase W-E-F-F. It's a name I came up with myself.
It's a very cute name.
Weff the horse.
Yeah.
It's a very sad end.
Grew up with this horse.
Yeah, I found out that he has 140 hours in the game so far, and this is like his 8th horse that he's had. So that's like almost, that's like what, 16 hours per horse?
I tamed it. We fought many battles together, and with one swift stroke, all of my memories, my relationship with this horse was just thrown away.
He had some work done on him. My argument, though, is that if it was such a great horse, why does it only take one swipe to kill?
That is a great point.
Because I was fighting some bees earlier, and it took quite a few strokes to kill the bees. But apparently, just like clipping your horse just takes them out.
Well, he wasn't bred for
battle
strength, you know. It's more of a speed horse.
Yeah, he did have fast stamina.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Weff.
Yeah, and then I thought we were good after that. We kind of like started talking again.
You put it, you threw it under the rug.
We threw it under the rug, and then.
So he thought.
But he still let me continue playing at least.
To his detriment.
To his detriment, because the next thing that I did.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's get this on record too. What did you do next?
This was the finishing touches to Keith's reign of terror.
he decided
wreaking havoc across Hyrule. Worse than Ganon.
Worse than Ganon. Wow. So he encouraged me to go check out one of the dungeon puzzles, and I went inside. And you walk up to the edge of a little platform. There's some water and like a floating thing that you have to get on, and some monsters like on other little islands. And so I'm like, oh, I know what to do here. I can pull my bow out and kill those guys so I can jump across. But then I pulled his sword out and threw it into the water because apparently the button right below the bow button is the throw your sword button. And so I threw the sword, it missed the enemy, bounced off a wall, and sank to the bottom of this pit. And then he's like, oh, you could just use the magnet thing to get it back.
Literally twisting the blade. That's
And so you pull out the magnet thing and you look down and it turns out that the water's too deep. But you can see the sword, it's just laying there. It's probably still there.
Just beyond your reach.
Just out of reach. You can see it. It was a good one. So anyway, he won't let me play that anymore, so I'm back to Overwatch.
Oh, well, George, couldn't you just go back to it, save your horse? Or can you not do that in Zelda? And
that's it's kind of not done in this game. You have to just accept things as they come to you.
I don't know if I like that.
It's more like a life simulator than it is.
I don't like making mistakes in my games.
You just cheat your way through them.
I do.
It's okay though.
If it's possible.
You can't make mistakes when you have unlimited health and.
Well, in a game like Zelda, you don't really need to cheat. It's just fun.
Why don't you just type the code in to go straight to Ganon, and then just fight Ganon and be done? You could finish the game in 15 minutes.
Or you could do it like Keith and become Ganon.
That takes all the fun out of it.
Well, where do you draw the line?
Where do I draw the line? I don't know. Just timed battles kind of get to me a little bit. Like, I like the strategy part for a little bit, and then I get bored with it after a while.
Maybe you're just not meant to be a gamer.
How dare you?
Maybe you think that you're into
I can
it,
game
really
however the fuck I please, Keith. There's no gaming police out there.
Just want to thank everybody for tuning into the Explicit Material Gaming Podcast.
It doesn't have to be all gaming, but it'll always turn to gaming because I love gaming so much.
Who doesn't? I mean, we all grew up with it, right?
Yeah.
We all did.
Shane, what was your first video game console?
Is this part of your notes?
Oh,
George came prepared.
Yeah.
I did not
That's
come prepared.
So wait, what have we covered so far? It was the
We've covered your Reign of Terror into Hyrule,
it was the
so you can cross that one off of your
the
notes.
animosity.
oh no, that's this is this is where. So we didn't get to. There's a part 2 to this story, because obviously somebody taking something away from me, 2 things away from me actually that I worked very hard for. I figured I would take a little something from him.
Yeah, you did.
So
Which I can see right now.
just kind of glancing around the apartment, I noticed a Rubik's cube
That was solved
that was solved,
by me.
sitting on his table over here, and I just decided to scramble it up and and just leave it there.
And there
Just
it
right
is.
there. If you notice, it's just sitting right next to the Nintendo Switch, just as a reminder.
That's been sitting solved like right there for the last 10 months maybe.
Want to make sure you can see it from every angle.
It's kind of a museum piece, but
You got yours, Keith.
yeah.
Now you get to stare.
The
at
only
it.
difference is that he's put 140 hours into that. And I've spent my entire life having never solved a Rubik's Cube until last year.
Well,
So
you just got to get better, bro.
Did you name your Rubik's cube? No.
oh. I'm probably just going to throw it away.
You're gonna find a deep pool of water and throw it in.
There's a river nearby.
All right, back to George's question. George, what was your question?
Oh yeah. What was your first video game console?
My first video game console was Nintendo, the original Nintendo. My parents got it for
Not
me.
the NES.
I think it was 86,
Whoa.
89. Maybe it was 89.
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
remember. I remember it being 4 or 5.
I don't know if I was
years
alive
old
then.
when I first got it, and yeah, blew me away.
I'd give you a
Got me.
fist pound from over here if I could reach.
Like,
Because
Air-
I got mine Christmas 1989. There's like video of us unboxing it and stuff.
oh man, I'm pretty sure my dad has some sort of videos out there of me playing Nintendo for the first time. My dad actually played it a lot. We talked about it in the last podcast with you and me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mario was fucking hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
But I do remember always asking my parents for $5 to go rent from like the video store we were at, or like whatever video store we were, because my parents were always on tour. So my most vivid memories of me playing Nintendo would be in hotel rooms.
You got a lot of time. I guess.
Yeah, and my parents would just leave me in there.
Do you remember the games that you would rent? Was there ever like one go-to game?
I do remember. Let's see. I do remember this game called Astanax or Aston whatever Nax or whatever. I think that's what it's called. But it was my first memory of seeing like cutscenes in a game. It was actually telling a story.
NES?
Yeah, NES.
Oh, is it that kind of
Well,
like side-scroll crappy thing?
It
with,
was
like,
anime.
text in the block underneath.
Yeah, it was
brings
like
up, like,
anime
a-
picture, and then like the girl was
Yeah.
talking, and then
Yeah.
I remember that. and
With
it's
the
like,
mouth that just opens up.
Yeah.
and
So
the
it's just
text
two
scrolls
different
below
frames.
it.
It cycles
Yeah.
back and forth between.
Yeah.
like a little fairy comes out and says, Astanax, you must save the world in this dimension. And as a kid, I was like, I want to be in another dimension and be asked to save the world from a fairy. Yeah.
That's
So
Well, you can dream.
that was my first Nintendo, like my first console was the good old NES.
You know what
playing
game
some-
was harder than Mario, in my opinion anyway? Because in that same 1989 video of unboxing Nintendo at my grandparents' house, like the next clip, you know, like when you stop recording and start again, it just cuts, like back in the day of those old cameras. The next clip was Mickey Mouse Capades.
Oh man,
That game was freaking impossible.
that
and then,
game.
like
I
on
do
this
remember that
retro
game.
console thing that I built, I played it again because you could do save states and stuff, and
Yeah.
I realized that the part I remember being stuck at as a kid, you get to like 10 minutes into the game,
Yeah.
if that, which means that all
It's
of
pretty-
my childhood memory of playing Mickey Mouse Capades, I never got past 10 minutes.
So that, like so many of those games you only get through like the first few levels as a very young kid, and you don't really touch it again or
But
try
you
to
do
go
it
beyond
over and
it.
over and over
Yeah,
again. You
do
just
it-
like play that, and you're like, yeah, this game's cool.
Yeah, and then you play it until you can't get any further, and then you just come back to it and do that same thing again, right?
Yeah, well, that's what they used to do. Is like the games weren't very long. Like
Yep.
you'd have levels, and they would all differ, of course. But they're, you know, the way they would make it long is that we need to put some difficulty into this. We have to make this replayable, and that was the
Yeah.
only way they could really make it replayable.
Yeah, I went through Punch-Out recently here with a friend, and I completely forgot that once you get through a handful of fighters, you like fight them all again, but they're harder.
Yeah.
They just like recycle. I thought it was all like different people all the way up till the end, but nope.
Do you have the Mike Tyson version or the what was after Mike Tyson got knocked from the
Who's Mike
cartridge?
Tyson?
Oh, did they?
Punch-Out. I didn't know
They had a
did
different
that.
one after that?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, because I think Mike Tyson went to jail, and then he wasn't such the glorified figure anymore after that, and then so I think Nintendo made the decision to reprint the cartridge, and it was just called Punch Out,
Oh.
and then instead of Mike Tyson, it was like Mr. Clean or Mr. America or something.
Mr. Clean's Punch.
It was like Mr. something, Mr. And he was like he was just some like big huge white dude with like very like slick back hair, and he had a very smile, and he was like, "Ugh. I'm the best boxer in the world. Do you
Also-
want to fight me? Are you sure?"
I thought it was Mike Tyson. Nope, it's me. It was always me.
Me all the time.
Yeah, if memory serves, I think that's what happened.
Mike Dyson.
Yeah, and then
Mike Dyson.
Mike Tyson. Oh man. Was Nintendo your first console? I think it was everybody's first console,
Well, I mean,
wasn't
George
it?
to
was
have
born
been-
in
no.
1997,
That's
so
right.
Hey.
Yeah, he's younger.
I think it
Not
might
that
have
much
been
younger.
I'm a little older than that, Keith. Give me yeah, I think it was either Super Nintendo or a Sega Genesis. I remember having both of those consoles and having an NES, but I didn't play that one as much. I think I got in trouble as a kid. And my parents took it away, and I just got it when I moved
They just
out.
never gave it back.
Well, yeah, because
Took it away permanently.
yeah.
That's it.
Well, yeah, because the next console had come out, so I ended up getting that one and
Okay.
put more time into that one. But yeah, I put so many hours into Super Nintendo games, and
I remember being blown away by Donkey Kong Country when
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
that
that
was
was
like the tech achievement when that console got released.
and it was like the music was super like atmospheric, and the models were like 3D.
also,
like air
motion.
quotes for the
Motion
first
was
time.
like,
It was-
it wasn't just 3 frames
Yeah.
of character movement.
Yeah.
There were actually like frames between the frames, and
The music in that game is amazing. The underwater
Yeah,
music.
I was just about to
is
say that.
just- I would
my
put that
favorite one.
on like when we were touring. I'd just put that on to go to sleep, and it would just knock me out. 'Cause
Works.
It's just so soothing. Like I
Soothing.
am really underwater, not drowning, of course. just floating.
Well, you can breathe underwater in your dreams.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
it
I
works
can't.
out. You can't. Well, I mean, it's a dream. You can kind of do whatever you want.
what?
Wait.
Wait, so you drown every time that you're dreaming?
Actually,
Keith has very accurate to real life.
Do you ever have those dreams?
yesterday
Keith dreams
I
about
dreamed-
getting ready for work, and then he wakes up, has to go to work.
I shit you not last night, but the night before. This will be a good segue while Shane gets another beer. But yesterday I woke up having dreamt that I woke up and asked you and Ashley where you wanted to go for breakfast, or like what you wanted to do first after we went to Broder. And Ashley said, "Oh, I decided that I wanted to go to Pips." which is the donut spot that I've been
you
wanting
wanted to go.
Yeah, that's the place that I've been, because you're like, I want to go to Voodoo Donuts, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, I want to go to Blue Star. It's like, come on, guys, Pips is way better. And so I dreamt that we were gonna go to Broder and then go to Pips, and then go like see Portland. And then I woke up in the morning and it was the exact same sequence of events, only instead of Pips, it turned out to be Voodoo.
Your
And I was
nightmare.
like,
So,
well.
yeah. I mean, if you
And I
think,
thought that was a good dream for me. That was kind of like a
how do you know you're not still dreaming? You're about to wake up, and we're gonna have to.
We're gonna
have
do the
to
podcast all over again.
Go get Pine State biscuits again, and then sit down and
that's
start the
entirely
podcast.
possible, because the dream
Yeah.
the other night was just like this. So.
Back in Super Nintendo, like freaking, I remember playing Mega Man X on
yes.
Super Nintendo, because the two games I got when I first got my Super Nintendo, it was Mega Man X and Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past,
Okay.
and I would go back and forth playing those games, and man, fucking Mega Man X, I would spend so many hours playing that game.
Yes, absolutely.
And then
Me too.
replaying that game.
Just the intro stage. I
Oh,
would do
yeah.
it just because
And
the
then
music was
The music
so
was
rad. Yeah.
I mean, man, Mega Man music is the best.
It had a really cool, like, because around that time it was like Terminator 2 was like the big action movie, and it was like the only like adult film that I was allowed to watch. Was like, well, you can watch Terminator because you've seen the first Terminator, and I'm like, all right, this is awesome. And then Mega Man X, I played Mega Man X, and I'm like, this is like I am the Terminator in this. This is
With a
amazing.
big giant gun.
You got like giant hornet machines flying around, and
That's such a good game.
Yeah.
And the first one where you upgrade your armor to
Yeah.
be like the white Mega Man X.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of, and then during that time was like the White Ranger was really really
That's right,
popular.
yeah.
And then
they just kept, and then after a certain point, they just kept introducing new Power Rangers that were just different colors, and but that's why that was so appealing, because I remember getting like you get the powered up the dash boots or
Yeah.
whatever, and you get the headgear and everything, and it's so exciting to like see all this new gear show up on your
yeah,
little
that was
sprite.
the first time that you like, for me, that was the first time for me of like just upgrading gear was just I need to get the chess piece. How do you get the chess piece?
Yeah.
How do you get the chess piece? So exciting. And then of course Legend of Zelda, which
Oh yeah.
Like the
blew my
gold
mind.
cartridge?
no, the Super Nintendo Legend of
Oh,
Zelda.
the, like, okay.
Did the Super
Yeah,
Nintendo
that's-
one have a gold cartridge?
I don't think it.
version?
No, it
I
didn't.
don't. Yeah.
No.
No, I think that gold cartridge for the NES was like the pinnacle of video games.
And it was such a good game to play with your friends.
Just because it was a gold cartridge. Just
Yeah. I definitely remember seeing that as a kid and
never have you been
bugging out over
as
it.
excited to like actually hold a game in your hands.
Yeah.
Except for the other day when I got to lick your Zelda cartridge for the,
Oh yeah.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
What?
Shane, have you licked a Switch cartridge yet?
No.
Grab
You
that
get-
case
yeah,
right there. See
that-
that case?
It's right next to the
Switch?
system.
Open that up.
Keith, which one did you lick? You licked Zelda.
I licked Zelda. Ashley licked
Mario Kart.
yeah, Mario Kart. So just pick anything, something that looks good.
What, am I actually licking this?
Yeah, you lick the cartridge.
I don't like
Just
your
do
your
it.
smiles right now. This
Just
is
do it.
I don't like this at all.
Just do it.
I mean, don't
Just do
you
it,
want to be
Shane.
cool?
Just
There's
take-
Ultra Street Fighter 2.
No, that's,
Oh yeah.
that's a good choice.
Yeah, that's a fresh one.
That's fine. That's
What am I doing? What is it?
just lick the plastic on the back.
No, I'm not gonna lick that. That's
no,
like
no,
a battery.
No,
Oh, no,
not
the,
that. Lick the plastic part.
Yeah, just the
This,
plastic.
this part right here.
No, like
On the other side.
On the other side, like where it's plastic above the contacts.
So
Yeah.
this part right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just lick that.
I'm going to lick this.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
If I get electrocuted or something weird happens,
We're right here. Well, Keith's got a phone here. We can dial
Yeah, I'll have
911.
911 ready to go.
I'm seriously gonna lick this.
Yeah, just fucking.
This is so weird. Okay.
Do you taste it?
What am I supposed to taste?
No, like actually give it a lick. Don't be a wuss.
Tastes like bitter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's super bitter, right?
Yeah.
And it's gonna linger in your mouth.
Ah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So.
One of us. One of us.
Ah.
Welcome.
Why?
It's so that way, because they're tiny little SD card sized things. They do it so that kids won't eat them.
Ah.
Isn't that amazing? So like a baby puts it in its mouth and spits it out.
Oh.
George showed me that 2 days ago. It's pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, Reddit was blowing up about these cartridges just tasting so bad. I'm like, oh, I gotta get, I gotta
drying
get
out my
all my
mouth.
The guy who like starts the thread. Why does this cartridge taste so bad?
Yeah, he was the first.
Then like, why did you lick it?
What provoked you to just? You know what?
It's like
This looks tasty. Some weirdo. He's the kid that picked his boogers and.
yeah, you can probably
class
still
and-
taste it on your tongue, huh?
Yeah, that's not a good taste. I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
Good on Nintendo for looking out for the children. Anyway, what's next on your
You
notes?
can cross that off your list.
Yeah,
Oh,
cross
yeah,
that off your list.
Convincing Shane to lick a video game cartridge. Nailed it.
What he doesn't know is that we like rub shit all over it.
Yeah, you put it up your butt real quick. You know,
I dipped
you
it in
stink
paint.
you stink palm 'em, okay?
You stink palm.
What's a stink palm?
Oh dear. Well, there's so much going on right now. I mean, I know E3 just happened, but there's all these conventions coming up, Comic-Con's coming up, which is it really seems to me like Comic-Con. I've never gone, but it seems like in the last few years it's turned into just the time of year when a bunch of trailers leak out onto the internet because they can't keep any of the trailer showings secret anymore because somebody will get it on their phone and they'll put it up on YouTube and then everybody will say, hey, look, Suicide Squad trailer's up. And then they'll have to put it out anyway. Because
Do you think that sometimes the studios leak it on purpose?
Probably.
Like, for example,
it's possible.
someone leaked the Deadpool trailer.
They
on
probably
purpose.
do that now. That I don't know if maybe it didn't start that way. Maybe they just figured like, well, let's make the best of this situation and get the leg up on them. Let's at least put something up on the internet that's of good quality and not somebody's phone, somebody's Nokia,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah,
Putting it up on
To
YouTube.
be honest, it's like one of those. If you see a headline of I don't know, new whatever trailer out, you're like, oh cool, I'll check that out sometime. But like, there's something about the urgency of like, trailer for this game leaked.
Yeah.
Sweet, I'm
Yeah.
gonna take a look at this before anybody else sees it, and it's not a bad marketing idea. If they were to do it themselves.
It's very clickbaity,
Yeah,
you know. But
which is what marketing is.
well, I was discussing. I mean, E3 in general. Like, me and Levi were talking about it. Just like, do you think that they're gonna have E3 for very much longer? I mean, if like this last E3 was kind of.
Well, this last one was open to the public for the first time. Maybe it will change, like how it. I mean, I don't know who runs E3, but I know that they like made it public for the first time.
Right.
So maybe it'll turn into just like a regular convention where anybody
But
can go.
I heard like pretty negative things about if you bought tickets, the lines were way too long.
Oh yeah.
You like stood in line for like an hour.
Oh man.
You know, and if you're paying $500 for a ticket, it's like
And you're traveling.
you want
most
to
likely.
try out all the games you can, but if you can't try a single game,
Do you know where it was held?
It's usually in LA, right? Isn't it?
At the big expo center. The
Yeah.
Staples?
Yeah, the Staples Center, because I know they got that whole area, like in and around it.
Yeah, there's a big convention hall there.
Yeah.
I just wonder if they did it like where the NAB film convention happens in Vegas, because that's the biggest convention hall in the world, I think, or in the U.S.
in Vegas,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's huge. It's unbelievably big. I don't know. Maybe it's a facilities thing. Maybe now that they're making it public and they understand like what kind of crowds they're going to draw, people just understand if we're going to go to E3, we need to have more support. We need to have more space. If you're going to be like Square Enix, you got to make sure that you don't have 5 game stations. You have 25 or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was like an industry controlled thing, almost like in the music
South by.
South by, or in the music industry, there's like the NAMM show in LA, which is all it's mostly like companies like Ernie Ball and Marshall. You know, it's for like folks working in the industry making gear and stuff, not necessarily open to the public. And I think that's what E3 was for the longest time, right? And now it's going to be a regular convention, I guess, now.
Do you guys know anything about the GameStop Expo?
No.
No.
I don't really have a talking point.
What is
about
it?
I filmed something at it once.
Is that
and
like...
So I got to go. It was in Vegas, actually. It was at one of the convention halls in Vegas where they do NAB. It's just a part of it. But they had, you know, like, I don't know, it just seemed, it was like, it seemed like an industry convention, but the public was there. Is just kind of small still. But they had, it was when Lightning Returns came out.
Oh, okay.
The third of the Final Fantasy 13s.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they had like that girl who did Lightning's voice, like she was signing autographs, like a couple booths over from where we were. I was there with Ouya, that little indie console thing.
Oh, that
yeah.
little box?
The little box that's kind of open source and fun.
Is that still a thing now? Like,
I don't know.
or-
I saw it not too long ago at a Target,
like brand new?
like for sale.
Oh.
There,
Oh.
you know.
Okay. Because you don't really hear much about Ouya anymore.
Yeah, I never heard a ton to begin with because it was all kind of grassrootsy and small, and you know, it was like a little party console. That was kind of their whole thing.
Oh, man.
Just tons of games that were developed to be able to sit down with 3 other friends. But
It's a good idea. Just
yeah. But anyway, the GameStop Expo is pretty cool. They had like all the main companies had little booths and stuff. It just wasn't this time of year where like everybody's showing everything.
Yeah.
Kind of like those Apple events and stuff where, you know, it was like a mid-season thing where no one had any huge stuff to drop, but it was kind of like a follow-up. They were just showing updates like, oh hey, so we announced this 6 months ago. Here's what we're doing with it now.
They probably touch on what's coming out in the holiday season, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, did you guys see anything at E3 that piqued your interest? Like, oh, actually, I forgot to mention this in the last podcast. I wanted to talk about the Xbox One X and what you guys think about, you know, this whole new generation of consoles. It's like now it's like kind of they're taking pages from Apple and all these phone companies that are like every 2 years. Now they're going to come out with a different, more powerful console.
So, I haven't followed up very much on that. Like, I'm one of those ignorance people where if I just bought a PlayStation 4, I just kind of like shut down for a while. I'm like, nope, this is it. I'm going to play this for a while. I'm not going to get envy, and I don't want to have my sights on the next thing. I just bought this kind of thing. I kind of stopped keeping updated. But all this stuff, like, because the Xbox or the PlayStation 4 Pro, and then there's one before the X. What's the other one?
The Xbox One S, which
yeah.
is a slimmer version of the regular Xbox One with 4K capability and a little bit of faster
Exactly.
processor.
So is that these are all iterative, right?
Yeah,
It's
these
not
feel like
a complete...
iterations. They feel like incremental updates to me. It doesn't feel like a new console.
Right, it's not.
Same games. I don't really pay attention to that stuff because it's like, I don't know.
Well,
I don't
what-
understand. I feel like it's if you don't have an Xbox One, then upgrade. It's kind of like when the iPhone comes out. Like you have the 7 and then like the 7S or whatever comes out.
Mhm.
It's like if you already have a 7, you don't need to upgrade. But if you're still chilling on a 5 or like an early 6 or something, then it's worth the upgrade. So what's new with the X?
Or you could do it, well, maybe in the future they'll do it exactly like Apple does it, and you pay every month, you pay monthly, and then every year you're entitled to an upgrade, and all you do is just pay a small fee and you get your brand new phone.
Do you think games might go in that direction more? Is it like subscription service based?
Well, I guess we'll find out. I guess
Like
Nintendo
Steam
is doing the Netflix style kind of pay monthly. You get their entire backlog.
It's like 19.99 a year or something.
Yeah, it's $20 a year for their entire catalog of
I mean,
like older games.
From what, Super Nintendo back, 64 and back?
I'm not quite sure. Haven't researched it that much, but
know
if it's
we
like
know
older,
yet.
if they have like all those NES games,
Yeah.
and you get to play them on your Switch anywhere you go, all you need to be,
There's a lot of value to that, actually. It's interesting to think about, especially when it comes to the Switch, because if it was like a Wii U situation, I wouldn't find that to be that amazing, because there are so many good modern games. A lot of people have a hard time, other than just for nostalgic reasons, going back to some of that. But like, I remember when I was in college, I went back through and played. It was like Final Fantasy 6, 7, 8, and 9 all over again, just because I had a hacked PSP, and suddenly these games that I used to have to sit on my couch and make time for, I could just throw in my laptop bag and take with me anywhere. And there's a huge value to like all those retro games are super fun to like fit in on your schedule, like when you have some free time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so on a Switch, it would be so fun to have all those old games, because how often do you have 20 minutes to kill, 30 minutes to kill, but you don't want to like go to your couch, sit down, or like you can just sit in your car outside a dentist appointment that you got there early for and just,
Yeah, that's when the Switch was being rumored to be a mobile console kind of thing. I was like super excited, and a lot of people weren't excited. It's like, oh, if that's all it is, it's that's not going to work. There's already a 3DS. Like, no, but you don't understand. If they're able to carry on games that came out for even PS3 or Xbox 360, there are games on there that are still really fun to play.
Yeah.
Like, Skyrim, for example. I'm super excited for Skyrim to come out on the Switch because
Did you
I
see
feel
the amiibo stuff?
Yeah.
You're gonna get to use amiibo figures with Skyrim.
that's pretty.
That came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and then that's cool. Like I think that that's a great idea, and I think a lot of people didn't give it enough credit.
Yeah,
think
I mean,
being-
that's what I thought too. And then all of a sudden you see some of the tech demos and stuff, and you realize like, oh, they made it's like the Wii U but better and without the console part of it. It's like
Essentially.
it's like just the remote of the Wii U. It's kind of sweet.
Well, yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Just wait 10 years from now when you're going to be able to put that Xbox One X in something handheld the same size.
So is that going to keep going? The what's it, Moore's law, where like computation can be done by something technology like at a smaller and smaller and smaller scale. Like I thought by 2018 or something they were saying there's gonna be some like limit that's hit.
Well, that there might be some kind of a bell curve thing, but the thing is that we're synthesizing new materials and being able to make wires thinner, and it's like technology. It's not just about computational power; it's about size and it's about heat and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, right.
So it's
right.
like what right now a lot of when you have a device like a PlayStation 4 or something, or even a computer like a desktop computer, a lot of that space is for heat sinks and fans and heat management stuff.
Yeah.
That's why it's so big. That's why you can, your laptop has no space in it, but even then most of that laptop is battery and like ducting for heat and all the fans and everything. So the more efficient you can get with your power, the smaller things can be because you don't need to worry about heat. So stuff is just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
Except for our phones, which are apparently getting bigger
Yeah, they're
and
getting-
bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
What the hell happened with
every
that?
time I see a bigger phone, I'm like, "What? We were on such a roll. We were on a
That's why I
great
went
track here."
backwards from the 6 down to the SE.
Yeah.
Oh, you went back?
Yeah.
It's the 6S guts inside the 5 body. So it's a smaller phone.
What's that one called?
The SE, the iPhone
The SE. I have the 5S. I don't.
Oh man, you're still rocking the 5S. Look at you.
Way back in the day. I kept my 4 until it would not work at all anymore. It wouldn't work with any of the new operating systems or anything. I take them
phased
as
it
far as I can go, man.
That's good. That's
Well, my thing is like if
that's a
you're
budget conscious shopper.
back to the whole like upgrading of consoles intermittently every 2 years.
Versus
I just feel
a big
like
jump. Yeah.
I just feel like if a person is going to do that, if a person is the type of person that upgrades their console every 2 years, why the hell do that? Why not just get a PC?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. But then the other thing, though, is the PC's not as friendly of a thing. Like, no one's going to sit down with their friend, like, who has an extra desk chair. So, like, hey, come over, let's sit in front of my desk at my PC and play. No, like,
Yeah.
the living room vibe of a console is what makes it a social thing. Even though, like, every game I get for the PlayStation 4 now is single player. It's not really friend inducing. In fact, like, you can't even play split screen with a friend on a lot of the games.
Yeah, I
Can you
miss
sit down next to someone and play?
I miss split screen. Do they have split screen on Overwatch?
Like, now I have to, like, no, it's I have to, like, send my friend home
Oh,
so that he can go log in on his console, and then, like, we can talk on headsets. But you know,
I miss that
God
whole
forbid
like.
we want to actually play in the same room together.
Yeah, I miss
Yeah,
because
can't have
TVs are
that.
just getting bigger and bigger and more HD with the 4K, and then it's gonna be 10K, and
Yeah.
then like if you're gonna have a TV that's as big as this,
it's like
your
literally a
projector
home
thing right
theater.
here, like why not have a split screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if this was a 4K projector, you could put two HD things side by side, and each one of them on the screen would be bigger than the average television.
And like LAN parties, like
Oh man.
that was the funnest time
Oh, dude,
ever.
It was the best.
In the same, everyone's in the same room. Like that's what we used to do with Halo.
Or sometimes with like two-story, you have one team upstairs and one team
Yes,
downstairs.
That's what
Did you guys ever do that?
I remember you doing that with Halo, where
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
had their own room, and
Everyone
you guys
had
would
their
yell
own
across the
room.
hall and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll
Everyone
scream
had-
at each other after every match.
It was the funnest. It was so fucking fun.
Yeah.
And now it's like now you got to have your own headset. Now everyone has to be in different homes on different Wi-Fi, and like it's just that's not the arcade vibe is lost.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I think Nintendo is by like kind of staying the course. I think Nintendo has just become the only player in that market. Like that's what Ouya tried to do. Like, oh, let's try to get back to just fun games that you can play with your friends. And Nintendo just kind of never stopped that. Like,
And
the
they
more
shouldn't.
the more all these other consoles go, like, big graphics, you can't split screen, it'll ruin your performance, stuff like that. Like, Nintendo's
Well, it's-
just like, bring your friends over, have fun.
Well, it
You wanna,
almo-
like, play quick draw with each other, cool, do it.
It almost seems like it's also maybe maybe it's not a bad thing that we have all these different things now, and it's just more specialized, so you can get any kind of experience that you want, more so than we really ever have been able to before.
Yep, that's great. I think
Yeah.
I like having the choice. But to touch on the incremental update thing, I personally don't like that they're doing that, just for the fact that I feel like it takes away development hours from actually making something new. If they're putting R&D into, like, let's take a console that we've already had for a few years and up the resolution, and then, like, oh, let's now, like, make this power a little bit better incrementally, so that the same games you've been buying have just a little more detail in them. Granted, I know that, like, the longer we've kind of hit a bit of a plateau, in that consoles that are coming out aren't as, like, devastatingly more powerful than the ones before. Like, the jump from Nintendo to Super Nintendo,
Oh,
or Super
yeah.
Nintendo to Nintendo 64,
Oh man,
Yeah.
that was mind blowing.
stuff like that.
Super
yeah.
Nintendo to even PlayStation.
Yeah, like when you think about, like, when Final Fantasy VI came out in, like,
94.
was it 94?
I think it was 94.
Are you talking about the 6 that was named 3 here? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was such a
I
good
think it was
one.
94 because Chrono Trigger came out in 95.
Did
And
it?
Chrono Trigger was the first game, my first RPG that I ever played. And so
Oh,
I
okay.
distinctly remember.
Yeah, and then you just think the jump to... Oh, it was the jump between 7 and 8. That's what it was. So 7, you all of a sudden have, like, kind of 3D polygon characters instead of the sprite system. And then the next year, 98 comes out, and you have 8 that comes with like photorealistic backgrounds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just blows. It felt like that year was a long time. You're like, man, things have come a long way since the last. And now it's like 5 years goes by, and things don't look that much better. Like I was just playing Journey, like the download game.
Oh yeah.
And then you loaded up Breath of the Wild, and I'm like, Journey doesn't look that bad. Like it's, and that was like, I don't know, 4 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
And it was an indie developed download only game.
Yeah.
And it still looks amazing when held up to the game that just came out that everybody's freaking out about. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not gonna, like a lot of talk is like, a lot of talk. That's what I'm. There's a lot of talk of like, I want my games to be 60 frames per second. I want it to be super fast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really get that whole conversation. Like 30 frames per second is totally fine.
Yeah.
I think
I mean, that comes from PC culture,
you think?
right?
Yeah, it's almost like a different type of like a different gaming mindset where maybe the people who are really focused on performance in that way are probably more geared towards competitive, like super competitive gameplay. So they'll probably,
okay.
for them, precision is so
Yeah.
important.
When I played 2 games competitively. One was Quake 3 Arena, and I had a frame counter on that to make sure that it was always at 60 or as close to 60 as possible. And then I played Dark Age of Camelot fairly competitively toward the end, and same kind of thing. I actually had a thing that limited the frames per second because it would do like 140 and,
Too fast.
yeah, and like it would just cook the crap out of the computer, and I'm just like limit it down, just to make sure that the performance is always like optimal, but not too much, not too little, kind of thing. And it was, I think it's really important to like the PC crowd, because that's the benefit of the PC thing, is like once you see things in crystal smooth motion, there's no jumps, no glitches, no nothing. And then you come to a console and you're just like, whoa, what's this? Like, this feels kind of primitive.
Yeah.
But I don't know. All these games are
Like
coming out
games
for
like though, but
everything anyway.
I remember when Final Fantasy 15 was coming out, and in a lot of the forum posts, they said it's going to be stable at 30 frames per second, and a lot of people are like, 30 frames per second, it's so stupid. It's a PS4, it should be able to handle 60 frames. It's dumb. I'm like, it looks great, guys. Like, it looks fantastic.
We've been watching films at 24 frames per second for 80 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still 24 frames per second.
Right.
They still look great.
Because it has that movie feel. Like when you
Yeah.
see a movie and it doesn't have 24 frames per second, you're like, oh, this is just live television.
Because it allows you to, like, yeah, it gives you a little bit of motion blur. It gives you, it fills the gaps between the frames. So that way things feel smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember seeing that. I think it was like one of the Hobbit movies that was like sped up to
48.
60 frames, or is it 48?
Yeah, they did 48.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Is there
and
a specific reason why they did that?
It just felt weird.
They did it because, well, it's a kind of an experiment. First of all, the Red camera that had been released recently, it was like the Red Epic when it came out, which was kind of a groundbreaking camera for its function, its size, its capability, and its price. And also, Peter Jackson had a relationship with Red, and so they just like threw a bunch of these development cameras at him, and they're like, shoot your movie with it, we'll support you the whole way. Just so that way they can say, like, The Hobbit shot with our cameras. But part of it was, so that movie was shot in 3D, which means you need 2 of them.
Yeah.
And when you have 2 cameras in close proximity, they use a beam splitter, which is one camera pointing forward, the other one pointing from down up into a mirror. So that way you can get the lenses closer than the bodies would normally allow. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
So like instead of this, if like my middle finger's here are the lenses, they needed to get them like that. And so what they could do is this. And so they could put the lenses as close as possible and just put a little mirror here that just bounces it. So that way they can put them more like eye distance apart instead of 1.5 times.
It seems like so much
Okay.
work just to do a damn movie.
Right. Well, I mean, if you knew how much work goes into a movie, it's actually a very small drop in the bucket. So it's like this work happens 6 months before they even think about shooting. But yeah, and so he shot in 3D, and while they were at it, they're like, well, we want to immerse people in this story, and it's also very heavily like a fantasy story, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of motion, a lot of action. He wanted to be clear, and like sports are always shot high frame rate, right?
Right.
Same kind of thing. Like, is the thought of like, let's do some tech tests and see how we can better capture action, make people see it better when they're looking at something in 3D. And then the other thing, which I never really read, but it's what it did for me, was it kind of made it feel like you were watching a pop-up storybook in a way. Like when you're looking at did you ever watch it in 3D by chance? Did you watch the 48 frame 3D version?
No, I never watched any of The Hobbit. I think my time with Lord of the Rings was done after Return of the King.
None of the
At the extended edition.
Extended edition.
9-hour.
9-hour movie. I'm like, come on, man, I can't. I don't have. There's not enough time in the day.
This movie has ended 14 times, but
None of the Hobbits are as good as any of the Lord of the Rings, but
I'd agree.
But
Shots
I would
fired.
say that George agreed. There's no fighting here.
If anyone wants to tweet at Keith, his Twitter is.
I don't use Twitter, so
Okay, you're out of luck.
complain away. But yeah, so watching though, I saw it when it came out, the first one, as it was shot, because that's a lot of people in film say like, you know what, I'll give it a chance. If the director wanted to do something unique, I will watch it in its intended form, just to see what it's like. And so I watched it in 48 frames and in 3D, and it felt like watching a fantasy storybook. It was like a storybook come to life. Like these characters are in front of you, there's like depth, there's all this 3D stuff happening, and then it had this surreal, like more real than real life feel because of the high frame rate.
I might have to go back and
It's like,
watch it.
did it work? I don't know. But if you watched it in 2D, it probably wouldn't have the same effect.
Yeah, I watched it in 2D, and I watched it on like one of those like super high def TVs, and I just remember it looking like it almost looked like somebody was shooting it with a home video or something. I think because of the frame rate, it tripped me out.
That could have been modern televisions, because high hertz televisions that you buy at like anywhere these days, they all have that like the motion correction stuff on by default. And
to keep up with people shooting in high definition.
I mean,
video.
it's not about definition. It's just weird. It almost takes a movie that was shot in 24 frames and like fills in the gaps between the frames, so that way
To make it appear like it's a higher frame
If you
rate?
stretch 24 over a 60 hertz television, it means that you have one frame of video stretched over a couple flashes on the television, because you have to do 24 over 60. So
Oh, yeah, okay.
you have a couple flashes of frame 1, couple flashes of frame 2, couple flashes of frame 3, like that. And so what this does is it stretches them all out over the course of the 60 hertz and then fills in the gaps, so that way no two frames are quite alike. And the result is you end up being able to kind of like see the set in a way, like you're watching a movie that you've seen before. You're like, why does this look fake? Why is it that I'm watching a big budget movie that looks like a soap opera?
Oh yeah,
That's it, soap opera.
And it's the motion correction on televisions that does that.
Is there a way to retroactively go into settings and
Yeah.
adjust that?
Yeah, you turn off the motion correction.
Yeah, it's in the video settings, and it's just like, nothing had ever pointed out how bad it was to me. I was always aware, like, man, I know this movie's supposed to look different, but I don't know how much different. Until I went home for Christmas once, and I wanted to show my parents a film that I had shot, and that I also edited the film, and I had put hundreds of hours into this thing, and I knew every frame of it. I knew exactly what it was supposed to look like. I even color corrected it. And I put it on, hit play, sit down, and like the second the first shot pops up, I'm like, this looks like shit.
Oh, man.
And then like 10 seconds in, I had to stop it and like go into there. I was like, you guys, I can't do this. I had to go into the menu, like the video settings, and turn that thing off. And then all of a sudden, it looked the way I knew the film.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
when I edited it on a computer, that's how it looks. And then you play it on a television, and for some reason, these TV companies think that they're doing people a solid, but really they're just ruining everything you watch.
Well, they're
Except for sports.
they're
It looks
catering-
great for football.
they're catering to the lowest common denominator. Keith,
What are you saying about football?
I love football. Anyway, let's move on from. Let's go on because he has such a big list. I want to make sure that
We don't have
I want to
time to
make
go
sure that George
We wanna
wants to
cover
get
all
through what
these
he wants to
topics?
get through.
Yeah.
George has been waiting a long time to talk to you about things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
Out of respect.
How about that new sale at Macy's?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while since I've showed up on any sort of podcast. It's usually the ones that I've done before have been mostly music focused. So I just wanted to make sure that I was prepared. So I wrote down like 3.5 pages of different things that we could possibly talk about. But
Maybe you can just tell us the list and we can pick the ones that we want to talk with you about.
yeah, there's one thing.
Yeah.
There's one thing.
It'll be a game.
Shane, you had mentioned on a prior podcast, you said something about, I think you guys were talking about Blade Runner, and you said you had not seen Blade Runner, but you're really into that style of whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's called Cyberpunk. Have you heard of this?
Cyberpunk 2077. Or are you talking about like the actual genre? Or
Okay. It's an actual genre.
Yeah, I know of the genre. Yes.
Yeah, dude. Well, that's it seems to be. I mean, I'm hoping we got that like Cyberpunk 2077 game that's coming out. They're redoing Blade Runner. It looks like. Is it? It's either a remake or a sequel or something
movie.
coming out.
The movie that's coming out with Ryan Gosling.
Right. Yeah.
And Harrison Ford does make an appearance.
Yeah.
2049 or
It's
whatever.
not a remake. It's a new story.
I can't imagine how they're gonna do that because they really like ended it with the original Blade Runner.
I never watched the original Blade Runner, so you guys can
That's it.
spoil the hell out of it.
Absolutely should. I highly recommend it. You get my recommendation.
I've been meaning to watch it.
You have my recommendation
Years.
too.
Did you see the Ghost in the Shell?
I never watched the movie. I did watch the anime a long time ago.
Yeah.
The live action Ghost in the Shell?
The live action Ghost.
I wanted
in
it
the
to
Shell,
go
yeah.
well, because
Is it good? Sorry.
if it doesn't, then not a lot of directors or producers would be willing to make another like anime centric live action movie.
Exactly. Yeah.
Want
You know?
that?
Well, that's the thing. Did you hear about they're gonna do? I guess they're thinking about doing like a full series of Cowboy Bebop in live action.
I did see that.
I don't know
Could be
how
good.
It could be good.
I
Yeah.
would see that almost being Guardians of the Galaxy-esque.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only way it would work.
Because it's like a big space adventure, but these characters are all kind of like, you can't really take any of them seriously. So that's kind of neat. I mean,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
remember the blockbuster hit Avatar: The Last Airbender by M. Night Shyamalan,
Big-
Shamalama-lama.
I
It's a true classic.
I think that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
And that answers the question of should we make live action of anime?
I don't. That's
Granted,
it's
not anime.
it's a
but,
tough thing. I mean, I just wonder sometimes if the people who are jumping into these projects, respect or understand the source material, or if they're willing to maybe take a risk and kind of make it their own more so.
Well, here's my thought. Like, this happened with comic book movies too. Like
Yes,
years
it did.
ago, everyone wanted to break into the comic book market because they knew if they did it right, they would make a lot of fucking money.
Cowboys
and
and
for
aliens.
years before Avengers and before Iron Man, like all the comic book movies, like with exception to the Batman trilogy, Batman Begins, and with the exception of that, like a lot of comic book movies were like kind of like they didn't really.
like Batman and Robin.
Yeah, they didn't do, very well. And
Yeah.
so I believe that directors and producers are still eyeing that video game community. And if they do it just right, they can do it just like all the Marvel movies that are coming out. Every single Marvel movie now is is a guaranteed moneymaker.
The thing though is, do you think that there's that? Do you think there's as wide of a fan base? I would see it going that way for people making movies like Assassin's Creed, and some of those like more blockbuster type games. But when it comes to like the type of stuff that we're talking about, things like Ghost in the Shell, things like those are much more niche audience, and I just don't know if there's people out there that are in those producer roles in film that really care enough. It work well though, because how many times have like all of the other stories been told? Like I don't know, my entire childhood was just flooded with X-Men, Superman
origin stories being told over
Batman,
and over and over. Yeah.
and all this stuff. And so I just never really cared about all these movies coming out, because it's just like, that's my whole childhood. Like, these stories have been told a lot. And I think things like Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a way of having a comic book universe, but without a familiar story.
Everything is fresh. It's all
fresh,
new.
It's new. It feels like I didn't even know it was a Marvel thing until after I watched it. Like, I don't know. I think that was part of what made it successful, was that it wasn't anything that people could be tired of.
And they could really go in their own direction with it. I don't know if there's anybody out there who's hemming and hawing about Guardians of the Galaxy not staying true to the canon of that universe.
Yeah.
You know,
There's a guy.
There's one guy in the forum. This movie sucks.
Howard the Duck does not show up until volume 34. You know.
Yeah.
But it seems like because nobody really knows it, they have freedom to kind of make it their own. Things with Ghost in the Shell, more niche audience, but it's a very important film. I'm referencing the 1995 Ghost in the Shell, because that inspired the film The Matrix,
Yes,
like
it did.
heavily so.
Yes, it
That's
did.
Touches on the
animated
same
Ghost in the
themes
Shell, right?
and
Yeah, he's the
yes,
animated.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I that on Blu-ray somewhere around here.
I just, I figured it would have been reasonable enough to expect something true to its form, but maybe not just somebody trying to recreate that film and then kind of smash in standalone complex and like put all that stuff together into one live action film that just didn't really.
George, you're very
through at
into
the end.
anime, as Keith has told me. So
yeah.
did you watch the actual live action film of Ghost in the Shell?
Yes, and that's kind of what I'm referencing here is just the live action one. I kind of understand some of the conflicts around the Scarlett Johansson casting and whatnot, but that actually wasn't really what bothered me about the film as much as those things. Them trying to, it seemed like they were trying to recreate shot for shot certain iconic scenes from the original animated film, and then smash in story elements from the standalone complex series. These are all Ghost in the Shell like series. There's the standalone complex series, and then there's the animated film that came out in 1995. And they kind of like tried to make this Frankenstein-y version of a story that used all those components, and it just didn't pan out in the way that I hoped that it would.
So, what would you what as a Ghost in the Shell fan of the original movie, the original animated movie, what would you have them do different? Because this is a thing that like I always see like movies like Assassin's Creed or someone like making, or Ninja Turtles, like, something that's very coveted to a lot of fans, and then they come out with their version and it just falls short. So I want to hear what, as a fan of.
For me, there was almost the interesting thing about the major Makoto Kusanagi is that she's not a very emotional type character. She's very introspective and very rash at times. She'll take wild actions because she's curious about her identity and her place in the world. And some of that stuff, now that I think about it more, I don't know if it would cater to a more mainstream audience. But some of that stuff just didn't pan out in the film. And then there was the big thing for me was that Kuze, who's the kind of like the main, I don't know, villain, I guess you would the antagonist of the film. he's a recreation of a character in the 1995 film called The Puppet Master. And the thing about the Puppet Master is that he's he says in the film, "I am a living and thinking entity created in the sea of information." That's in 1995. Somebody wrote that and put that in a film.
Wow.
And that was groundbreaking for me. The first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is way before the internet was a huge thing. This is way before AI was like becoming a big thing." Kusanagi is the major. She's like kind of a person-machine hybrid, but Project 2501, the Puppet Master, is a living and thinking entity created in the sea of information. I didn't get that experience of like, wow, this is on another level with the live-action version of the film.
Well, I guess with something like that, though, once you've experienced that, you can't really experience it again.
That's probably
no
true.
matter how hard you try.
Exactly.
Unless you did something
Exactly.
completely different.
Well, and I think I guess what I was just hoping to see in the live-action film was that Kuze would be this new type of consciousness rather than a person who was like also a sort of machine person hybrid, and then they've gotten into like sort of a romance with Kusanagi a little bit. It just, to me, it just kind of watered down that experience.
So did you see the Attack on Titan live action movie?
No, I didn't.
I haven't seen it either.
Yeah.
But I was just I was wondering if there's any commentary, because you've seen. Did you see The Last Airbender? M. Night Shyamalan?
I shied away from it. Yeah, I
Okay.
was a little terrified.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about this because you have the source material for some of this stuff is very highly reviewed, highly regarded
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
Attack on Titan, super well reviewed, season 1. Avatar, The Last Airbender, the show, and Legend of Korra are still, if you could count them as anime, they'd be among the best I've ever seen. And then you have Ghost in the Shell, and all three of these movies, I think the best Rotten Tomatoes score for any of them is 55. And it's like 55 for Ghost in the Shell, 51 for Attack on Titan, and then 6% on Rotten Tomatoes for The Last Airbender.
Really?
Yeah, 6.
Oh, wait,
And
are you talking about the live action?
the live action.
The live action.
Okay.
The
yeah.
Last Airbender live action.
That's
So-
not really
I
surprising.
guess I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah.
No. So when you get into this thing, like, I don't know. I think that because a lot of like our DC Marvel universe is so widely accepted, there are people out there making movies that want to stay true to it and want to that get it or whatever. And I'm
Right.
wondering, like, is it a coincidence that every time someone tries to make a live action with the source material of something like this, it flops? Or not necessarily flops, it's just kind of like very lackluster at best.
Yeah, maybe it's...
And I wonder what it is about that.
I don't know, man. I want to know, like, what is it about the Marvel movies that do it so well that people accept it?
Now, I think it's because those are so many people have grown up with those. There's so many people who were teenagers in the 90s
They have kids now.
that are now 40 years old, or maybe even up to 50 years old. And they're the ones who, they have kids now,
Yeah.
and they're in the position to make movies about stuff, because 30-year-olds aren't making blockbuster movies. You know, it's I just think that the fan base is much more broad out here. You're not like you're not a crazy nerd if you're into the Avengers, or if you're into X-Men and you want to make an X-Men. Like, we grew up with X-Men arcade games and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I just think that this stuff is so, like, the anime crowd is so niche that maybe there's nobody out there that cares enough to do that good of a job yet. You know, maybe it's going to be, I don't know, maybe it's going to be us.
Yeah.
Maybe things like
You
Attack on
know what the
Titan that
answer-
gets non-anime people into anime.
The-
Maybe stuff like
The Dragon
that.
Ball Zs.
Maybe
and
in
yeah.
20 years, there will be people that were into that stuff because it's the next generation. You know, maybe in 15 years, we'll get good stuff out of it. I don't know.
Or maybe the answer is don't make movies because there's so much source material to go through. Why maybe make a Netflix live action TV show,
full-on series,
which to my knowledge, I believe some director is making a live action series of Castlevania.
That's right, they are. Yeah.
As well as an animated
looks
series.
good.
As well as an animated series.
Did you see the? Did either of you guys see the? There's a trailer up for it.
I haven't
actually.
seen the trailer.
The new
I saw the
Castlevania.
trailer for the animated version.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for the animated version, but I didn't see one for the live action one.
Wait, so
Wait, unless I'm wrong, because like that's what I thought. Is it not
I
going
might
to be?
have I might have missed this. So they're doing a live action version as well.
I thought so. I thought I saw.
I'd definitely be up for that.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I
Is it
read.
an animated thing?
Look at it, because like I remember reading something on Kotaku or something, and they were talking about someone's making a live action Castlevania series, and it's not live action, it's actually
Netflix.
animated. Yeah, it's on Netflix, so I might be wrong.
No, it is animated. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wrong.
It's animated, but I saw that. Either way, but someone's making an elongated story behind
So maybe
something
that's
that didn't have that much of a.
so maybe that's the key. Like maybe if this goes really well and it's downloaded and streamed a whole bunch, like maybe like okay, now that we have, maybe you can do it in a show version style.
Has Castlevania been in print or anything like that, or has that just been games?
Wasn't there a comic, like a series of short
sure
series
there
of
was-
comics, maybe?
I'm sure. I don't know. There's the whole, Castlevania is such a big series.
I just find it interesting because I've thought about this a lot, just because I just started going through, not to keep bringing it back to Last Airbender, but I started going through it again. I'm like halfway through the first season, and I've already been reminded like, this is actually a really, really good show.
Yeah.
But it's funny because there's like a curse that's known with that universe, because it's so groundbreaking and so good, but it has yielded the worst spin-offs like imaginable.
Would you
It
consider
has
Korra a spinoff?
What?
Would you consider Korra a spinoff?
No,
'Cause
I
is
mean,
is that
that's same. That I think
an
that's
extension to the same
world, That's
story?
an extension. That's just the next Avatar.
yeah.
And they killed it. They did such a good job. In fact, I might like Korra better than Avatar.
Really?
They're two different.
I gotta go back and watch that one through to the end.
Korra was great.
I started it. I couldn't keep up with it, but
It's just that it's a little more. I think they realized that they had this thing that didn't just appeal to kids, and I think that The Last Airbender was a little more child centric, even though there's a lot of stuff there for adults. But Korra, they kind of understood. Oh, we have like a teenage, late teen, even adult audience that we can say things to.
Right.
And so I think that it just feels a little more adult. It's not as adult as something like Attack on Titan, but it's more adult. But then you think about the live action movie they made out of it, and it's awful. And then there's a whole Wikipedia page about this. I can't remember the game studio, but they hired a game company that's literally never made a commercial flop before to make the Last Airbender game. And with all the elemental bending, like there's a lot of really cool opportunities.
I could definitely
for
see that
fight
being awesome
systems and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be an amazing action RPG kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
And they made it, and it was such a terrible game that it like almost bankrupted the video game company. And it was the first
Wow.
time they've ever had a failure. And it's I think it's Castlevania's kind of vague.
it does leave a lot of
There's, like,
open
there's
space
so much
there
open
to work
space
with.
to do whatever you want with. Something like a world that's already been developed to the point where people love it. You try to do something with it, and it's gonna seem lackluster compared to the amazing original.
And it's
thing.
just adult enough to make it not sound campy, like for like the young adults, because young adults can smell that shit. They don't want to watch something that's good for children.
Yeah.
If you're a young adult, you're like, I'm not going to watch.
Absolutely.
this.
Like one of my favorite movies is Old Boy, the Korean. stuff, if
Oh,
you ever saw
Old
it.
Boy.
I never saw Old Boy.
So Old Boy is like one of the best revenge films
That's what I hear.
I can think of, and I can almost guarantee that like Tarantino is a pretty big fan, just in watching his movies. But then they remake Old Boy with Josh Brolin,
And it's terrible.
and it's terrible. But it's like why take something that's amazing and try to tell it again,
Well-
because it's already told in a modern way and it's already good.
There are examples of it being done well. I thought the Western version of The Ring really captured kind of the uncanny valley, that sense of dread, until the end when you see the ghosts, which you should never do anyway in a horror film. But I think it could be done. A little bit of good news there is that I heard James Cameron has the rights to a Battle Angel Elita film. I don't know if you're familiar with Battle Angel Elita. It's more a manga, and they did a little bit of anime of it. But it's one of those stories that's not. It's not super established in any sort of film form or animated form even. So he could probably have a lot of room to work with it and make it into something really cool.
See, and I think that does leave a lot of space when you have freedom and no expectations to live up to. I guess is kind of where that comes from. I mean, I wonder if James Cameron would actually do anything with it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be excited to see it though, because he's one of those guys that just every once in a while just drops a bombshell, right? And then it's I mean, regardless,
he's working on Avatar 2 right now, so
he is. Oh man,
I just wonder. I mean,
I don't
a
think
lot of
he's-
those things. He had a huge hit with Titanic. Obviously, people still look back on Titanic. I don't think people really look back on Avatar though.
no, I don't
Didn't
think
he
so.
like go
That
in
blew
like
people's minds, and then everyone forgot about it within a year or two.
for Titanic? And this is kind of off subject, but like, didn't he like go into like the first submarine of its kind to go a certain depth?
Yeah, he
What
That's
a
what that South Park
crazy
episode was about.
motherfucker.
James Cameron.
definitely set some records on that.
It's like, I'm just gonna go on this untested submarine that's never, never
Wasn't he
done
a
this
truck
before.
driver until he was like 35? He was a truck driver.
something
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was.
and he was just like, I want to make films now. And then he just started
And
reading.
then I'm
reading
awesome
up on
at it. I'm one of the best.
Did Terminator
I
2
made
and-
Aliens, which is a
Aliens.
fucking great movie. What's next on the list? I
Oh.
think we've
What
got.
we got
Funny
here?
thing, since you mentioned aliens, I don't remember which alien movie was it. The guy who Jean-Pierre Jeunet,
Is he the one that
The-
did
the Alien
the
3?
Alien 3?
is that
The weird like
The weird one where
the
everybody
guy
hates
who-
that one.
He's the
Yeah.
guy who directed Amelie.
really?
What's
Is he the same
Amelie?
director
Huh?
that did Alien 3? Is the guy that did Amelie? Because I loved Amelie. I thought that was
Yeah, he also did he did Micmacs, and he did Delicatessen was I think the movie that he did.
I didn't
Oh,
watch
man.
any of those movies.
Now I gotta like fact check myself because
All
when
right, well,
someone-
while you're fact checking yourself, George is going to bring up the next subject.
All right, so
that he wants to
Shane-
talk about.
Alien
Shane.
Resurrection.
Oh, actually, didn't mind Alien Resurrection. I thought that was a pretty decent
Huh.
movie.
Yeah, so this guy like makes quirky French films, and then he does Alien Resurrection.
There is a lot of quirkiness.
there was
in
some
Alien
quirkiness
Resurrection.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
the weird alien human hybrid.
Yeah, and then Sigourney Weaver is like
the
uh,
mom.
yeah, she's the mom, and she's also like strong as an alien, because she's got the alien
Oh, yeah,
DNA.
she's
a
like
clone.
a clone. Yeah,
She's a clone. And the iconic scene where someone walks into the like experiment room, and one of the clones, the failed clones, are like, "Kill me."
Oh yeah, that's right.
Kill me, which was that like a lot of people think that that's a very terrible movie, but like that's an iconic scene that people continue to reference.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there are some movies that have those special little moments.
Yeah.
What else do I got on here? There's a new Star Wars film. I don't know how into Star Wars you guys are, but there's a new Star Wars film, and it's coming out later this year. We haven't seen any other footage other than that initial trailer, and then they showed like the title screen. It's called The Last Jedi or whatever. Do you think
Is it really The Last Jedi
it's?
though?
I don't know.
I guess
I don't
that's
know.
I guess it's a. Is it a play on words? Is it?
It's Luke calls himself the Last Jedi because he thinks he is, and then as soon as he's out of the picture, they're like, "All right, let's do the Jedi for real this time, guys."
Typical Luke.
Yeah, fucking Skywalker.
This guy over here thinks he's the Last Jedi. Yeah.
Is anybody else? I don't know if I'm allowed to say this stuff out loud.
Uh-oh. Are
Oh.
you gonna say something controversial?
Yeah.
Are we?
Is anybody else tired of Star Wars movies?
No. Look what you did. You just
Here we go.
You done did it.
Here we go. You can.
You done
I'm
did
sorry.
You can
Did
Well,
anybody else think that? Did
Star-
anybody else think that the episode 7 was just kind
You
of
know-
like unnecessary, and then Rogue One was pretty pretty decent, and then they're just kind of making money now because
I thought that they were good enough.
this
at
ties into
least
the
to
comic book
be
movie
made.
thing. Is that
Yeah.
like, if you make a film that already has brand recognition, you save on marketing budget, and that's the only reason why people do this stuff. Like, I don't think anyone really cares about making a great Star Wars film. They just want to make a movie good enough to take people's money.
I don't know.
Well, I'm out. Great podcast, you guys.
I don't think I agree with you on it because when
I'm asking the question.
Oh yeah. No, I.
when The Force Awakens came out, and then people there was that huge talk like, is J.J. Abrams actually going to pull it off? Because the last three Star Wars we saw before that were so terrible. Made by the
and that was
creator.
still
Star Wars.
George
Sorry, I thought you
Lucas.
said Star Trek. and I
No,
was
Star
about to
Wars.
fight
Did I
you.
say Star Trek?
No, you said Star,
Star
Wars.
Wars.
I just
Okay.
heard it as Star Trek, and I was going to jump across the couch.
No. No need for that. But George Lucas's prequels were, I think everyone agrees, were pretty terrible. And then when it was revealed that J.J. Abrams was going to take the helm for Star Wars, a lot of talk was, is he going to be able to pull it off and make it feel like an actual Star Wars movie that we're all familiar with?
But Yoda fights in Episode 2.
That might have been the coolest
That's the
part of that whole
pinnacle of the
series.
Star Wars universe, right there, is when Yoda starts doing
But even the
backflips.
you see, that's the problem. Like, I think, I don't know. Anyway, even the coolest parts in the prequels, like the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin, even then there are the acting is kind of weird. Like, when he knocks,
you turn her against me.
when he knocks Anakin down and he stands over him with his arms like this, and he goes, "You shouldn't fight. I will kill you."
Oh, yeah, see,
And he says it like that. I'm like, come on! This is supposed to be an epic
I have
battle.
the high ground.
So, my approach from asking this is that, I have to look at it from a filmmaker's perspective, just because that's what I am, and when you study screenwriting and you study, I don't know, when you just see what people do and you see when you see someone make a movie like Avatar that blows everybody away, and then you're like, wait, this was already done with Dances with Wolves
And Pocahontas.
It's
Yeah, it's definitely
it's
from a
just-
writing perspective, it was a story that had been told many times over.
Yeah,
I think it was
but-
more so the spectacle of this
but that's
world.
the thing. It was a tech spectacle.
Exactly.
But everybody was, it's just kind of I don't know. When I saw Force Awakens, I walked out of the theater. I really liked it, and I was like, yeah, that was worth seeing. I didn't want my money back, especially after the 3 before it.
Yeah.
When it's
Right.
a breath of fresh air. Okay, so Star Wars doesn't suck again. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I had a conversation with a filmmaker friend about it. Actually, he's not he's a screenwriter friend, so it counts. And he just started asking questions. And in a 10-minute conversation, I completely lost any love I had for the movie.
What were his questions?
I mean, it's been a while since I saw it and since the day after, and I had those conversations, so I don't remember all of them in detail.
But it was obviously-
I personally had a lot of issues with it's missed opportunities and intentionally watering things down. You have a chance to really they'll get close to bringing something up, but then they don't develop the story enough to really say anything pertinent about it. For instance, the defected stormtrooper that learns to get his identity back when he was just a number, and
they don't really talk about that.
all this stuff. I actually felt because your entire experience with this series is these stormtroopers are minions. They have no free will. They have no thoughts even.
They might as well still be clones.
Well, maybe that was it. Maybe that whole.
And then all of a sudden you have this guy that's learning to fight for what he actually feels is right instead of what people tell him to do, and all this stuff. And you have this kind of great identity challenge to deal with, and I almost found that part of the story to be the most
compelling.
the most compelling, I was just gonna say the most interesting part of the whole film, and they just kind of brush over it for a bunch of other stuff that's not so.
Well, I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched it, but weren't they kind of hinting
Also-
that it was because of the Force that he was able to like basically get his mind to where it needs to go? And
Were they? I mean,
isn't
That-
that
just
kind of the whole
that,
point
that
of it?
overarching, like the Force is kind of willing things to repeat until they're balanced
I
or
saw-
something?
Something
I
like
know
that?
I know that they killed off Han Solo because they had to, because it's what Harrison Ford wanted.
Yeah.
But even then, like, I found everything, even down to the dialogue in that scene, to be laughable. Of just like, here's this guy who like doesn't reach out to his son, doesn't have any relationship with his son, and then just on a whim decides to walk out in the open and meet him face to face. And instead of any expression of remorse or like things can be better or anything, like all he can think to say is like, "Come on home, we miss you." Or what, like there's nothing of substance is said in the entire movie. It feels like it's just a lot of like, you could have actually had something that made us all feel in that moment, but instead you kind of half-ass attempt and then he strikes you down and it sucks because it's Han Solo. But I felt like it was kind of a backhand. Like I almost got offended by the way they handled a lot of these situations, because they just could have been done so much better. And
I totally concede your point.
that's
I can
just like,
see
I
your
walked
point.
away from the movie thinking like, wow, there's a movie with insane potential that was just passed at every moment, basically. Except for a couple awesome fight scenes.
Maybe they'll kick things up with the one that's coming out, because it's a different director.
It could be shaken. I liked Rogue One. I thought it was like,
Yeah, it was kind of a cool story that didn't necessarily need to be told, but it was kind of cool that it was made. It's just there if you want to watch it. It doesn't really affect anything else.
yeah, it doesn't affect anything else.
Which can be a
Also-
drawback too.
It's
But
also, it was a story. It was much better told than Force Awakens, and I think that
the space battles were awesome.
yeah,
I
totally.
loved the space battles in that one.
That was done well, and again is like, you have all these really diverse characters and all these really complicated backstory elements that, because it's a movie, they have to kind of breeze over. So you have to kind of forgive that, like, wow, we could have learned a whole lot more about that because that was really interesting or whatever, but
Right,
instead
yeah.
you don't.
Yeah.
And you just have to be like, okay, I'm all right with that. And you have like they did really, really great things with like having a diverse cast of really, really awesome actors that
Yeah.
all played very distinct roles. And
I would really, really like to see Diego Luna do a lot more in
yeah,
in
that
mainstream
guy
films.
was great.
I loved him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man.
We're coming up towards the end right here, and I need to take a potty break.
All right.
Let's take a potty break real quick, and then we'll go back to another subject, and I think we'll be done.
Okay.
What do you think? Because we've been talking for about, I think,
Sounds
an hour
good.
and a half already.
So wait,
Nice.
are you just gonna take the microphone into the?
No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this.
That's a good note.
All right. Last subject that George has picked out of his list.
All right.
We decided to
things.
tear it up and put it all in a hat and have him pick.
Yeah. So, apparently, Atari's making a new video game console.
Wait.
What? This is brand new information that wasn't talked about during the break.
Where did that come from?
Yeah, I mean, but I genuinely was surprised.
Yeah. No. It's,
That's kind of like hearing that. Never mind.
It's.
I was gonna say something really stupid, like that would be like if Tamagotchi announced that they were coming back with a, but it's way different and it's way better.
Okay, so wait, they are coming out with a new console?
That's just what I heard.
Is it gonna
I
be
actually.
Panel brown
I
with one
actually-
knob on it.
It's all analog. They're going back analog.
You have to buy like 3 converter boxes where you have to screw the little U clamp down.
Oh yeah, you gotta
Put
wrap
an
the wires
antenna on
around
it.
the connector thing and.
Dude, go for it. Old school, man.
Yeah,
I mean, when we went to that shop today, I saw nothing but like old school like record players. So why not,
Yeah,
bring back the retro Atari?
Lay it on us. What's the details? What-
Actually, those are the only details that I saw. I scrolled past a headline and it said Atari's making a new console, and I thought, oh my goodness.
And then you just scrolled
It's
on.
kind of yeah. I
You're
kept
like,
scrolling.
Oh, look at cat.
As you do. yeah, I'm pretty
Back
sure
to-
that's where I went next. So like,
back to
oh,
cute
this picture of a
puppies.
cat.
All right, well, I'm gonna have to look this up now. Because
Look at that.
Yeah,
Look at-
give me
this
a
dog
website.
stands up on its own hind legs.
Well,
It's so
I know
cute.
the ColecoVision, or the company that owns ColecoVision. I think it's Coleco.
Yeah.
I know they did a trial run of a new system called the Coleco Chameleon. And
Really?
according to the CU podcast, which is an awesome podcast, you should listen to it if you haven't already. It's awesome. Pat, the NAS punk, is amazing. But they covered this subject extensively, and I'm not so much of a retro gamer as they are, because they have like huge collections.
Oh yeah.
But so the Coleco Chameleon came out. They, I guess, was kickstarted, and they did something on a show floor of some sort of retro convention, and they faked their display somehow. Like it wasn't like they were showing something that like the display was coming from an entirely different device and not the device that was being shown on like their Kickstarter. It was I don't really know. I can't remember the details really, but like the community like spotted it on the floor and started like, that's not right.
Oh yeah.
And
That's,
like boom goes the Coleco Chameleon. Like everyone was like, this is fake. This is, these people aren't being truthful. And the guy who was running it got like, he's no longer a part of any sort of gaming thing now.
So I have some information about this.
Okay, cool.
It's called the Atari box.
So they've announced that it has a name. It's
I don't
like
know.
official?
They're referring to it as the Atari box. They're actually calling it the Atari box. But a lot of information's not been revealed.
That's probably why you don't have
that-
much
yeah.
information.
in fact, it's been like over 20 years since the Atari Jaguar came out. And
that was one of the last consoles manufactured in the United States, I believe.
Yeah.
In Sunnyvale.
Not to mention it was $600.
It was $600.
Yes.
Weren't they
I
all
don't
that
know
much
if I ever-
No.
I don't know
Not
if
that
I've ever
much.
seen
Well, I
one
mean,
in
it was
stores.
made out of wood, though.
Not the Jaguar.
The Jaguar.
Jaguar looked like
They
it
all
was
have
like a
wood finishes?
toilet seat. It looked
They did
literally
not-
like a
didn't have
toilet
a-
seat.
Oh well, this one. There's like a little 20-second trailer that they released when they announced that they were making it, and
Is it modern or is it
it's going to be wood finished.
There you
If
go.
the trailer's any
analog dials?
It's gonna. I don't know
Antennas?
about that, but it's gonna be the classic wood finish. And then there are two thoughts on it that are all speculation. One is based on something that the Atari CEO kind of confirmed, was that his motivation for releasing it was the release of the NES Mini,
Oh.
and he thought it would be a good idea to do that, and so everybody's thinking it's kind of like a way to play classic Atari games in the home again, using modern hardware and maybe a better controller. And then others believe that it could be a fully fledged machine capable of competing with PS4 and Xbox One.
I don't think they're gonna go that route.
Wouldn't
I
it
don't
be
know.
amazing though if there's like a wood panel finished Atari box that was like
That'd be too-
4K and
I mean, that'd be pretty amazing, but I don't think they want to go
So
that
then
route.
you
That's a lot more of expensive route. I think they have more to gain if they go the NES Mini route.
But don't you want to like play Space Invaders with graphics
Bruh.
of Breath of the Wild in 4K though?
Not really.
I'm trying to. That's one of those. Well, that's a generation of gaming like behind us, right?
Yeah.
Like, we.
That was like my father's generation
Right, yeah.
of
That was
gaming.
like Pinball Masters and
But that's a great idea. I think they should totally do it. I mean, Sega's doing this similar thing. And
Are they doing hardware?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They doing like a console?
Yep. And it's going to be similar to the NES Classic, and they're going to have like stored a whole bunch of games on there, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think so. Like when Nintendo discontinued the NES Classic Edition, Did you hear that? There's like a mouse around here.
Yeah. It's Portland. We're in the woods.
Yeah, it's the Portland Rats. It was a very cute mouse, by the way, too. What was it saying? Oh yeah, the when Nintendo discontinued the NES Classic Edition, I was like, what could they possibly be thinking? And then they revealed that they're doing like the Netflix style streaming monthly payment thing for lower than any other competitor. I was like, okay, I get it now, because they would make so much more money doing this.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to making a box every year and using factory space to to build it and ship it off and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, that makes a lot more sense. But like they're like, for collectors, I feel like an Atari box or a Sega little thing to have those old retro gaming systems. I think that's pretty cool, as opposed to like having like an emulator on your computer, and you have, it's like there's something cool to have like something tangible in your room that plays all those old games.
Yeah, you almost give it more value on a personal level.
That you don't have to do illegally with like a Raspberry Pi or something. Which works just as well, but I don't condone stealing.
Of course not. And plus, when you buy, I'm sure like when they do release boxes like that, they obviously had to pay the certain companies the licensing to use their games, like Capcom or so like people get paid when you buy those boxes, as opposed to emulating all of your games.
Exactly. And here's actually just a question: do either of you guys have any insight onto what kind of profit margin there is on a console when it comes to?
There's little to no.
There's little to none. So it's like, if you spend, especially because the prices are so freaking low on these things now. Like
That's why.
I can't remember what I spent on the PS4, but I remember thinking like it should be more expensive than this. Like as I'm buying one from GameStop or whatever. But
yeah, to my knowledge, it's not that big of a profit. Like they do make a profit, but it's not like.
But I think
crazy.
with all the years of R&D, I think they operate at a loss for years, don't they? Until they, because it's kind of one of those things, like a one-time manufacturer, and then you get like X number of dollars a year to subscribe people up to this thing, and all they're doing is just providing access to a library of games, and it's pure profit. There's no, the only overhead would be if they had any active license fees to pay for the games, which I don't think they would at this point. I think they've kind of already purchased the rights to them, or maybe they get a new deal with those people, but
Well, think about all those old companies that aren't alive anymore. Like, someone has to own the rights to them, because they don't just die. Someone buys them out.
it's just, instead of selling, like, if you sell these boxes, like, let's say they're, what would they be, like, I don't know, $150, $200 for
Cheaper than that.
What was the NES Mini selling?
They came out, was $60. It was the same.
60?
It was the same as a video game.
And so if you have something like that, and then it like something that basically acts as kind of like how we use a PS4 to access Netflix or whatever. So if you have like this Atari thing or like whatever, it might come preloaded with all the games or whatever. But if you have some system even that gives you streaming access to games,
a library that can change.
Yeah, a library that can change, and you charge people like $20-$25 a year or whatever on that kind of a model. After 3 years, you're probably making more money off of that than you would have on profit margin on a console to begin with. It's just a different model.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting one. I don't know if it's better or worse. Like, would you sign up for something like that? Or like, when Nintendo, like, if you got a Switch and then they did
I think I would, because it's $20 for the year.
Yeah.
It's not $20 a month. It's $20 for the entire year.
Yeah, I mean, I paid.
That's $1. That's less than $1 a day, right?
I paid more than that.
Yeah.
I
don't have math, so I don't.
I just understood what you said.
It's like what? It's $3. It's $4.
Yeah, I paid more than that for a PlayStation Plus subscription just so that I could play Overwatch.
Yeah.
And I had to buy the game. I had to buy the game, which is like how much that Nintendo Mini thing costs, pretty much. You spend like $60 almost on a game.
Yeah.
Then you go home and you sign up for an online account so that you can play it,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no offline mode.
Well, I wonder if it's the future. Like, I mean, I know Xbox, back in 2013 wanted it to go that way, and they kind of jumped the gun a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, we're going to have like no disk drive, and it's all going to be in the box, and you download once, and you have to have special permission for your friend to borrow the game, and and people obviously were like, fuck you. That's not going to happen. And then PS4 pounced on it. But I do feel that they're correct in that's the direction everything is going to go. Like everything is going to go in the cloud and
In the ecosystem.
In the ecosystem and then like physical discs will be a special thing, kind of like records, or even compact discs now, which is crazy. When we went into that
through your compact discs.
Yeah, we went to that record store and like compact discs
What
felt
are
so
these?
old.
Yeah.
And then a cassette feels like ancient.
Ancient, yeah. Like you literally stole
Holding-
it from in a museum. Yeah.
Like holding a cassette yesterday for the first time in I don't know how long. Like it was thick. It was like
Yeah.
bulky.
How is media in this thing?
Yeah,
It's like,
it was so
it's
you
like a
shake
McDonald's
it and it
toy.
kind of rattles because
Yeah.
of the spools. But like going back, like crossing over into my industry, I don't know if you knew this, but Adobe stopped selling. I guess there's a way you can still buy things like Photoshop in a one-off.
They do a monthly subscription now.
But yeah, so Adobe switched years ago, like at least 3, I think, to the Creative Cloud thing where you don't own Premiere to edit movies, you don't own After Effects, you don't own Photoshop. If you want to use more than one piece of software of theirs, which almost everybody uses more than one, at least in the film industry, you just pay them a regular fee and they give you like a little download manager that allows you to like on command just hit a button and it installs the software for you. It just downloads it straight onto your computer, installs it, and you're like, boom, okay, I've got Illustrator now.
In
I'm
a
gonna do this
way,
thing real quick.
that's like the perfect model if you think about it, because number one, I'm pretty sure like, the company makes money and it probably makes a lot more money than having someone buy it wholesale or, because in that kind of model, people kind of were kind of forced to torrent,
Yeah.
those kind of things. But now if it's like an easy $12 a month thing, you're like, well, I'll pay $12 a month.
And with
That's totally
the
fine.
lack of physical media too, you can do a lot more incremental updates. Just like when you log into your game system, and all of a sudden, like I logged into Overwatch a few months ago, and they just added a new character. There was a pre-balanced, already fit into the ecosystem.
Yeah,
of the game.
those background running updates.
Yeah,
to your
exactly.
game.
I
Yeah.
just go to play the game, and all of a sudden there's a new character in the selection screen, and you're just like, this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
this is really cool. So you can do that, and they update the software so often now because they don't have to print up physical copies, and they're not locked into that people who torrent the software that don't have access to all those new updates miss out, which makes them want to sign up. So there's
Right.
like less pirating. There's
Right.
there's more participation in the community in the
Convenience.
purchase of their product.
If people have an
Convenience.
easy way to pay for something, I think they're more likely to pay for it, and also there's a little bit of a guarantee of some sort of quality. Like if I buy something on iTunes, I know I'm at least going to be able to play that record, and those songs aren't going to be bootlegged from somewhere. Like I
Right.
kind of know what I'm getting.
Right.
The
so-
rate's gonna be decent.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at streaming, like anything, like the whole streaming model for music, or it's like I
Spotify
think
and-
convenience trumps anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
it
and
does.
like I'm from the music industry, and I'm like, man, streaming is so much better than going on iTunes and and then having to buy, because even though it's like $1, you still like, I don't want to pay $1 for this song. Even me, like I'm in the music industry, I benefit from someone paying $1 for my song.
If you can
But
get
even
better-
me, I'm like, I don't want to pay $1 for this song. I'm just listening on Spotify,
Yeah.
and it's sad.
Or YouTube. YouTube's doing that stuff too.
YouTube does the same thing.
Yeah.
It's sad, but that's kind of the model of. It's kind of the model of where everything is going, because convenience trumps everything.
Yeah.
Look at self-driving cars.
Oh, that's going to
Yeah.
be so convenient. I cannot wait for
Absolutely.
self-driving cars.
I have a reservation in line for the new Tesla whenever that comes out. I figured back in the day, if I got in line, that by the time it would come out, I would have the money to pay for it.
And do
How's
you?
that working out?
How's that worked out for you?
Be able to afford it at least.
Yeah.
It's not that expensive of a car, but either way, yeah. Like I mean, and those things come with the self-driving stuff installed, and there aren't a lot of updates, but that's yeah. Like, have you guys ridden in one of those? Like the current models or anything?
Never ridden in a Tesla.
Never.
You just they hit a button and it just does like when you're in auto drive mode and you want to change lanes on the freeway, you just click your blinker, you just tap it up. You want to change lanes to the right, you tap it up, the car will find a gap for you and change lanes. Like it'll know. George just hit his microphone.
You just kind of blew my mind there. So I was like, what?
Literally like run into the microphone.
What?
Yeah. But yeah, no, you click the blinker and the car will like either speed up or slow down to the nearest gap, and then merge into it and turn its blinker off.
What time is it?
It's 2:55.
Oh, 2:55. Okay. I think we got a couple.
But Shane's not impressed.
I mean,
He's watching
I've heard,
He's watching the clock.
I'm just
He's
making
like,
sure
we
that
need to not
I'm just making
do
sure that George has everything that he wants to talk about.
Want to go through the list again? What do we got here? We got
he
Europe.
did the work for me this podcast.
We got stories from Keith and my trip from Europe. We popped around Europe a little bit.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. You guys got into a big argument. We'll close with this. We'll close with this so we can end on a negative note.
It's it's noted right here. Anime animosity. All right.
Anime animosity. That is what's going to be right here, right in the middle. Anime animosity hashtag right here. So go.
We're gonna dig up some of this.
Let's dig up some of this. I'm excited.
Here we go.
Let's get this going.
Shane is giddy right now.
I'm giddy. I want you guys to fight right here live on this podcast.
So George and I, we hit a point when we were in Italy together where I think we both realized that we would never have anything in common ever again. And it all came from about 10 minutes of talking about anime.
By the way, nobody wins in an argument about which anime is like more legit. Or
Nobody wins, but some people lose more, and it's the people who have to listen to the conversation.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
No, actually, I think we've resolved it kind of. Since
No,
totally
I don't
did.
want it to be resolved. I want it to not be resolved right
This
now.
is an ongoing story.
Ongoing
the rivalry between
Keith and
It's
George.
ongoing, but in short, George doesn't really like anything after 1994. And
George, your rebuttal.
How dare you? It's first of all, it's anything post 2007. And second of all, I don't get my anime recommendations from BuzzFeed listicles.
Oh shit!
Is that, I don't even know what that is.
Shots fired
I
from
use my
Mr.
anime.
Woods.
Top 10 anime you should watch before you graduate high school. Yeah.
Oh god. Okay, so I don't know. Like I don't even know what to say to that. Yeah. So it's true. I came across anime way late. Like I said, Attack on Titan was my first anime that I watched.
That's bizarre.
Outside of I watched.
Outside of Studio Ghibli movies.
I watched Studio Ghibli movies, and then I saw Akira when I was a youngin.
Oh, so you have seen that. All right, that's good.
Okay.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I saw it, and it was really confusing for my young mind.
It still is
sure.
confusing
It
for the
still
adult
is.
mind.
Good to know. But no, I don't know. Actually, here's the problem with fighting on command like this is that I have since watched, like, George had me watch Evangelion and or Evangelion.
I think it's I don't know. I call it Ava now just to be safe. Like I don't want to pronounce it wrong.
It's definitely, well, I mean, according to a dub type thing, I think it's Evangelion.
It's Evangelion. Like, excuse me.
Gesundheit.
But while I didn't entirely like understand it, I didn't get everything that he got out of it. I can see, because I hadn't watched it. I think our fight started around that because he was telling me how good it was, and I was like, I don't know. I just watched Hunter x Hunter, Hunter by Hunter.
Hunter by Hunter.
or Hunter x Hunter.
Hunter.
Because if you read the title cards on each episode, the titles of the episodes have little X's in the middle of them. So if you were to say like going to get gone back or whatever, there's like little X's.
Going X to X, get X, gone X back.
Yeah, you know how they do that with the title cards.
Yeah.
So that's I assume that the pronunciation was Hunter Hunter.
Oh, so
instead
you
of
think
Hunter
the
X
X is
Hunter.
silent?
Yeah.
The X is silent.
It's Hunter X Hunter, but the X is silent.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's Hunter Hunter. I don't know.
So anyway,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't even really comment on it. I just
so what's the argument? Like,
It was just-
so the argument is that
So
you think that
the argument is that all the things that I've watched are things like the remade Full Metal Alchemist: The Brotherhood. It's Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Hunter x Hunter, Attack on Titan, maybe things like Code Geass, or not Code Geass, Steins Gate, because I really like Steins Gate.
Oh, yeah.
And the animes that I like are a little more story. I kind of find they're a little more story based or whatever, and a little more, maybe not necessarily like, I don't know if they're more heavy handed or less heavy handed, but I just find them. The thing I get out of them is what I get out of playing role playing games like Final Fantasy and stuff. Is that there's like kind of a through line story, all this stuff. And then I watch some of the recommendations I get from George, and I never quite know what to get out of it. And I don't know if it's my problem or if it's his problem.
well, it could be the fact that what he's telling you to watch are in fact older movies, and this might be a thing for just older movies in general. Like if you watch, if I showed a child or a young adult like the original Batman with Michael Keaton, he would look at it and be like, "This is stupid. Like this is there's no artistic this is I'm not getting anything from this because
Right, yeah.
Who's this guy? Jack Nicholson? Who is this person?
And so there's a lot of pop culture and stuff that's relevant to the time when it came out and everything. But maybe it's one of those situations like all the people that think Final Fantasy VI is the best Final Fantasy, because all the people that stumbled on it later, they're like, "Oh, you don't know, 6, the opera scene, man."
Yeah, it might be like a bit of a nostalgic thing. I think
It could be.
But there also I'd agree with you in that I feel like a lot of what you tend to like more so is stuff that's more emotionally impactful.
Yeah, because I'm an emotional guy.
And I'm not.
Void, completely.
I'm just an empty
A shell
soul here.
of a human being.
Yeah, but for me, I guess some of the stuff that really kind of blew my mind was the more contemplative stuff, because I feel like a lot of stuff, like Ghost in the Shell, it touched on subjects that, as a species, like we weren't even really thinking about. Like nobody was really thinking about that sort of stuff for like years.
I think
And it's
context is very important with those type. Because especially if you show them now, you're like, oh yeah, they're talking about the internet.
See, and I think that's when people whatever introduces you to an idea is something that we then attach to as the source information for the idea in a way. Like we attach that thought with that thing. And if your first experience thinking about like that, see, to me it was Carl Sagan and it was Cosmos kind of stuff in that realm that got me thinking about like what is existence and all this stuff.
Right,
I didn't
yeah.
get that from anime. I got that from a different place, and then I really love the anime that like touches on it.
right.
But to me, it's like that stuff is the king in like philosophical realm. And so I think it's just where we're coming from on it. I think
Yeah, we coming from different places, and it might have a more of an impact. You might hold it in higher regard if you saw it when you were sort of coming of age, or when you were still developing as like a person and trying to figure out like how do I interact with other people, and then you.
oh crap, my Roomba before it hits your.
Oh.
No. That's great.
Save the day.
Interrupted by a robot while talking about.
So in this argument between who is the more legit anime fan, between Keith and I, it's the Roomba. that wins. wins out
Roomba has the
ultimately.
last.
I will say this. Our conversation that we had about it before, I think I just I was sleeping on a really shit floor and I wasn't getting good nights of sleep and I was just kind of irritable when we were in Italy talking about
We
this stuff.
did kind of resolve it by actually taking recommendations from one another. Folks, if you're listening at home and you're wondering how to resolve a conflict with somebody else, offer something. So I said, tell you what, if you watch Evangelion and you watch it in the way, you
Then
got to
it's
watch
supposed to
the
be
film
watched.
end of Evangelion after watching the series, maybe skip 24 and 25. If you watch that, I'll watch Hunter x Hunter. And I do not regret watching Hunter x Hunter for a second. That show is amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And I watched Evangelion and I got to the end of it and I called George because I was like, I have no idea what I just watched.
Yeah.
But I watched it and I cared enough to have a conversation with him about it and figure out what it was that I might have been missing because I felt like I missed something.
I'll tell you. Okay, well,
didn't
I'm
read
glad.
Schopenhauer
I'm
either.
glad things worked out for the both of you. But I have one last thing that I need to ask George.
Yeah.
All right.
What the fuck is up with the masturbation scene in the
Oh.
hospital?
All right.
Oh no.
So
That was was that in the
I actually
movie or
don't
in
know.
the?
That was in the movie. That was in the
Okay.
film End of Evangelion, and that is one of those things where maybe context is more important, and it probably shouldn't be because it should be more self-contained. But what I took from it, this is one of the reasons that Evangelion is so impactful, is that people are still talking about there's that scene, and then there's the choking scene at the very end of the film. Like, why? Why does any of that stuff happen? And if you think about where that film takes place, End of Evangelion takes place directly after, I believe it's episode 23. Shinji had just, for the second time, killed one of his friends. Or the first time, I guess he thought he killed one of his friends.
Mhm.
The second time, he actually did, like one of the few people that he was actually able to become attached with, which is a big thing for him because his whole difficulty with, I guess it's called a hedgehog's dilemma. Our fear of intimacy keeps us from, we're afraid to become too attached to people because we're afraid of being hurt. And he just started to get over that for the first time towards the after going through all this other stuff, being shoved in a giant robot and forced to face Lovecraftian monsters and
Lovecraftian, that's a good word.
yeah, yeah, and he's 14 years old, right? So already not fully put together as a human being, what I took from that was that he becomes completely unhinged, and this is the way to demonstrate it. That he no longer has any connection to his own impulses at that point. He just kind of
becomes an ape.
right, and it somehow goes even more downhill from there. His psyche, he gets even less stable as time goes on.
Well, because it does make sense because so much pressure is being put on a 14-year-old boy.
Yeah, hey, save the
Hey,
world,
by the world,
kid.
yeah. By the way, you have to save the world by killing these ginormous
All your friends
monsters,
are dead, and it's your fault.
and your friend is dead.
Yeah,
Great.
Yeah. And he was never really he dealt with all these abandonment issues because his dad left him, and then when he came back, his first time seeing his dad in years, his dad's get in the giant robot. The only reason I'm seeing you is because I have a use for you now,
And to make it worse, he seems to have an emotional connection with somebody else, like one of the other pilots.
right. Without getting into too much of the spoilish nature of that character, which is a whole nother conversation. But yeah, that's what I took from it.
Okay. Well, I think that makes sense,
And
and
that's
I'm
what-
glad that you explained that to me because I
This is
didn't.
what happened with me and Evangelion, where I watched through this whole thing, and the last 2 episodes of that show are stream of consciousness, just kind of weird, whatever. Without that, even I just asked him all kinds of questions like that, and then he would give those answers. And I'm like, I feel like I didn't even freaking watch the thing. If you got that out of that, I need to try again, I think, because that's insightful.
Context is important.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for doing this, and thank you, George, for
Thanks for having me.
coming all the way down from the Bay Area driving 10 hours to go be on this podcast
Oh,
with
yeah.
me and Keith. This was a lot of fun. Appreciate you guys doing this.
Yeah, man.
I love you. I love you both very much.
We love you
we
too.
can we can now.
The L word's a little.
No, it's not. It's not strong enough. There needs to be a stronger word for the feelings I have for you both.
I think Keith's suffering from a bit of hedgehog's dilemma.
I love you too, Shane.
Oh, all right.
And George.
Was that cut? Was the clap?
That's
wrap?
that's a wrap. That is a wrap.
It was cut off.
Until next time. See you guys.
Thanks, guys, for listening to the podcast. If you like it, tell your friends. Subscribe for notifications for future episodes. It's that easy. And rate it, too. Get me up there, man. Come on. I also upload video clips of the podcast. Excuse me. Oh, God. Can't. Oh, my goodness. That was crazy. I also upload video clips of the podcast on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/WiseDrums. Follow the Explicit Materia Facebook page if you like. You can follow my page too on Facebook, WiseDrums. Follow my Instagram @WiseDrums and my Twitter @TheWiseDrums. I think that's all the socials. Anyway, so until next time, guys. Hopefully I can get the next episode done a lot faster than previous times. So, all right. You guys have a good one. Bye-bye.